Very good morning and a very warm welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Mauni. I hope you all are doing good, dear friends. Let's have a positive start. In the end, anti-black, anti-female and all forms of discrimination are equivalent to the same thing, anti-humanism. Now, if you ask me, then I would say that all the things like hate and anger and everything, right? All those negative emotions are not something that is taking place outside. It is something that is happening within yourself. So whenever you find people passing some sort of negative comments on you, or you can say they are basically stereotyping and things like that, then just leave them on the side, right? Don't pay that much attention, because it's not something, right, that is happening in you. It is something that is wrong with them, and they are the ones who are spreading that or trying to infect you with that negativity. And one thing, good thing about offense is that, of course it may sound strange, yes, one thing, the thing about offense basically is that, whether you take it good or bad, is basically that offense is not something that can be given, right? You cannot offend me until and unless I allow myself to be offended. So this is something that is very important, and this will create a sort of protective shield around you. With this, dear friends, StudyIQ provides pen drive and tablet courses for various different exams. Check out studyiq.com to know more about it. With this, let's have a look at first editorial. Now, first of all, let me tell you that you might have observed that there is a little bit of change in the presentation, right? The lecture slide has been changed, and these changes are going to take place. I am trying to create a sort of I cannot say perfect, but the best we can, right? The best we can make, or right, 99%, if not 100% perfection. So this is something that I have done. Editorial written here. You will find this editorial picture on this side, and of course then you have all these important bits and pieces. Same thing applies. I'll quickly take you through it. Of course, maps will be provided in full screen, and then you have this other articles given in this way. Of course, you know it very well that this is one of my methods, right, to add as many pictures as possible, because I believe that with the help of image, right, things are, it's not only I believe, I know for the fact that it helps quite a lot. Anyway, so this is the thing, and you can see here news items. When we reach news items, then you find the news on top of it. Now, many times I find the students asking me for adding page numbers and things like that. The thing is that it takes too much of time, right? So I beg your pardon for not providing you page numbers for each and every news item. We have a very limited time. From morning 4, I have to get it out before 10, and of course have to maintain quality and things like that. So cannot add all these sort of things. There is a bit of hard work that you have to do, and I don't think so this is hard work at all. Just going through the names, right? The names are as it is. The title is not changed when this, you find Allahabad High Court Judge Shukla to be impeached. So this is a news item, so I haven't changed the title of this thing. So it would be easier for you to go through the Hindu, either e-paper or your physical paper, or even their website as well. So it won't be that difficult, and this news are most important ones as well. So you will find them on trending topics as well, just in case, right? Some of them won't be there, but anyways, I think enough is said on this thing now, right? So do let me know what you think about this version. And of course, I am going to change. I think that this blue bit can be reduced a little bit, and other things I will try to do a little bit of changes anyways, but it will take time. Anyways, right, so let's crack on. Now, the first editorial that we have is, the name itself indicates, a wider net. Remember something that we have talked about, wider text base and how it will impact and things like that. So one basic thing for all those new students, right, and for the regular ones, it is going to be a bit of revision. Now, the simple is that, right, let's take example of a family. Now, imagine yourself that a family of 5 having right, earning, say for example, 5,000 every month, right, so 1,000 each. Now you have to pay your gas bills and your electricity and other things, but imagine if only one member is contributing, say 200 rupees out of 1,000 that he or she earns every month. So you know that the situation is going to be very tough. The fridge is going to be empty most of the time because other members are not contributing, right? So this person has to give a big chunk of his or her income, right? 200 rupees is something around what we are talking about, 20%, isn't it? But imagine that everyone, right, all 5 members are giving 100 rupees each. Then you have 500 rupees per month, 500 rupees per month to run this house, and you have more money, and everyone will be giving what, 10% of their income. So this is how it works with the government as well. If more and more people are paying their taxes, then it is the money that government will receive, it is going to be higher, and the taxes can be lowered as well. The slabs can come down. So this is the thing with a wider tax base. And one more thing is that demonetization and GST. This is a very important figure that is highlighted in this editorial, and it is been said by this economic survey as well, that roughly 1.8 million or 3% of the existing compliers started paying up their taxes. Many of them are reporting incomes close to 2.5 lakh threshold. So these are two good things that took place after this demonetization and GST. It has basically triggered a surge in the number of those filing taxes in the country. Now both things, right, in both you can say categories, indirect and direct tax. Very basic thing. Direct tax is a tax if you earn, if you are a businessman or businesswoman, and if you make a profit, right, then the tax that you pay on your income basically is your direct tax. And indirect is, say for example, if you go out and buy a packet of biscuit, and the tax that you pay on this packet of biscuit is your indirect tax. So this is the major difference. But the collection in both these categories have gone up, and we can safely say that the intentions of this demonetization and GST have been met to some extent. Now personal income tax collections are expected to rise to a historic high of 2.3% of GDP compared to 2%. Now you would be thinking that just 0.3%, and we are using the word here historic high. The thing is that it is very sad that just 4% of adults pay personal income tax in our country. As per government reckons that the number should be somewhere around 23%. So you can say that even a mere increase is going to be beneficial, and in near future and in long term as well, we are going to see that this number will go up and up because of all this latest technologies and compliance thing. And you have GST and other things. Means GST now is finally you can say is basically being accepted, and you know that e-way bill is implemented, and there are other changes as well that government is looking for. So a time will come when it would be very hard, if not impossible, it would be very difficult for someone to evade tax under GST. And 50% increase in unique indirect taxpayer in the first 6 months of GST, with around 10 million, right? Earlier on 6.5 million, there were 6.5 million businesses during this pre-GST era. Now we have 10 million, so things are a bit good, and we can use this big data driven approach. This is going to be more proactive, right, using big data analytics and things like that to target these evaders, to ensure that we create a sort of firewall so no one can escape it. With this, dear friends, second one is about an attack that took place, a very, you can say, horrid attack that took place in Afghanistan, and in last 10 days 158 people have died. And ISIS and Taliban on a bigger level, right, they are engaged in similar activities, but they are against each other. Of course, there is a power struggle between ISIS and Taliban. They may look same, but the way they operate their things and the way their propaganda and their, you can say, goals are a bit different, but their tools are same. And the tools is basically, their tool is to destabilize and create more and more problems and chaos in Afghanistan. So this is the thing, and the thing is that we have talked about this thing. You remember the map of Iraq and Syria and other parts, how ISIS so far it has lost a huge amount of territory that was under it, and it is trying to build networks elsewhere. The biggest issue that the world is facing today is use of social media. Right, it is using digital networks to promote its agenda, and this is a very, you can say, one of the most challenging thing, because it is very difficult, right? It is nearly next to impossible to identify them. And the sad thing is, many times you find MI6 and other top agencies of the world saying that we don't have enough system and manpower to keep an eye on all this online, you can say, brainwashing agents. Anyways, the protracted war and the indiscriminate use of air power, many innocent people do die as well. And whenever this sort of things do take place, what happens is that this Taliban and other terrorist groups, right, they will easily brainwash all those people who have lost someone during this airstrike, even if they are not terrorists. When they are common citizens, if they lose, this collateral damage basically that takes place because of this air power and this long war, this will create a sort of breeding ground for this Taliban and other agencies, or you can say terrorist groups. Now let's quickly go through important bits of Afghanistan. The capital is here, Kabul, and you have here Hindu Kush mountain range, very important mountain range. It is famous for or you can say infamous for earthquakes, right? So this is a thing. We saw an earthquake in 2017 as well, a bigger one in 2016 as well, if I'm not wrong. There was a big earthquake. So Hindu Kush is here. So whenever you are reading your geography, studying geography, make sure you pay attention to this one. Then you have this Badakhshan area over here as well, a bit of mountain range. This one is mountain. Then you have this Helmand Valley. Many times you find these questions as well in A and B, match the following sort of thing. So they will ask you Helmand Valley and they will give you the name of the location, so make sure it is in Afghanistan. Then you have two rivers here, Helmand River and Farah River. So that's basically everything, and I'm sure you have gone through this Afghanistani map earlier on as well, because we have talked about this thing too. So the countries around it, you can spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it's up to you, right? But do spend some quality time after map, because with the help of map you would be able to understand geopolitics as well, right? So the group now controls, this Taliban controls 2/3 of country's territory, and Taliban at present is too strong to be defeated. You cannot straight away wash this Taliban away from Afghanistan, but it at present, luckily, it is not strong enough as well to uproot the current government. The US forces, recently Donald Trump has said that he's going to increase the boots, or he's going to increase the total overall support that USA provides to Afghanistan. And of course it is not happy with Pakistan, and it wants India to provide as much as, or play a developmental, whatever development support that we can provide in Afghanistan. It is more than welcomed by USA. Moving on to another item, this is about ASEAN India Commemorative Summit and overall relationship between India and ASEAN. We have talked about, I think, 3 or 4 times on this thing, so very quickly I will just add the things that we have not discussed, or the things that were not mentioned earlier on. The regular things, I'm just going to provide 1 or 2 lines just to refresh that memory, right? So this meeting that took place between ASEAN and India is considered more like a sort of a meeting that will that indicates the future or our goal, where together we want to reach, right? Something like this, you can say. Or the other way, if I put it in the other way, it is like when you stand on the top of the mountain, then you can clearly see everything that is nearby, right? You can see the rivers, you can see the trees and everything, and you can also see a sort of track that will from which you can head towards your another mountain. So in the same way, this meeting will provide a sort of a path for future, and a good way to begin is to listen to ASEAN's voice. What are the things that ASEAN is looking for from India, its expectations and things like that? So it is very important for India to listen, right, to understand. And once we understand what exactly ASEAN is looking for, then we can try to fulfill that demand by providing whatever we can or supplying whatever we can. And India is important to ASEAN, and this can be understood by Singapore's statement. They said that we believe, right, Singapore and other countries, they said that they believe that India makes a major contribution to regional affairs, helping to keep the regional architecture open, balanced and inclusive. You know the stand of China, how China is playing with South China Sea, and USA is stepping back. So in this way, India can play a role of a balancer in the region. Now the other things that I would like to highlight here is about RCEP. You know that India is not India is a bit skeptical to join this RCEP, and the reason is that China's flooding of products, right? So this is something that India is a bit skeptical about. And the other thing is that India wants to provide its services as well as manpower, a free flow of manpower. These are the 2 points that India wants under RCEP. So negotiations are going on, and ASEAN can play a very good role, or ASEAN can help India in, because India has no option, right, when it comes to RCEP. We have to step in, or else we are going to miss it. And there is one more, you can say, a terminology that we find is moral connectivity, which places people at the center of interstate relations. So this is something that is very interesting, moral connectivity, right, connecting people of different countries with each other. With this, dear friends, this one is about economic survey, a roadmap for renewal. Now, you know, economic survey, we have talked about it yesterday as well. I requested all of you basically to go through that special video lecture of one of my colleague, Dr. Rathore, right? So I hope most of you might have gone through it. And this article again is talking about, or basically it is breaking down, or you can say it is, you know, giving some highlights or important bits and pieces of economic survey. So economic survey is a scorecard of the economy for the current fiscal year. Yes, we know that. It is very simple to understand. And earlier on, right, if we go back a little bit, not this government's survey, but earlier surveys used to say that all the changes that we are going to see in Indian economy, they are going to be incremental in nature. That means they are going to be step by step. But demonetization of 2016, right, has proved that we can take radical steps as well. Radical basically means all of the sudden, right, some drastic changes can also take place in our economy. Last year, the survey came out with new terminology called JAM Trinity. JAM stands for Jandan, Aadhaar and Mobile, right? JAM. So Jandan account for your, first of all, you need to have account, and then you connect your Aadhaar card with it, and then you have your mobile. So this JAM Trinity is considered something out of the box. Anyways, the latest survey highlights 10 new facts. It talks about climate change and its impact on agriculture. It talks about nutritional inequality, or inequality in general that we have when we compare boys and girls. So this sort of things are basically not something that is new or unknown. We know all these things taking place, so we cannot term these things as new facts. The other thing is that it talks about exports, you know, have under GSTN, because of not getting their refunds on time, this exporting businessmen or businesswomen, or you can say people engaged with exports, faced a sort of crunch with their working capital. And the other thing is that when we talk about exports, right, it's not our big companies it's not the big companies who are exporting items in huge quantity. It is our small companies, right? They are the ones who are exporting more things. The other thing that this article talks about, or what we can learn from this economic survey, is that we are not able to place ourselves in global scale, right? We are still lagging behind when it comes to exports and dominating the world market, because big companies are not able to do that, and small companies, they don't have that much support and things like that. And labor laws are also a big hurdle when it comes to exports, because it impacts the overall production and other things. So these are, of course, some of the changes that we have to take. The other thing that this article is talking about is that a tilt towards populism, because we know that agriculture, right, has not performed that well. You know that money in the hand of farmers down, credit, their availability of institutional credit is still not that good. Irrigation facility, again, we know that nearly 50% plus agricultural land of our country does not have irrigation facility. And this e-market, right, electronic national agriculture market, is, you cannot term it as a big success. So there are many challenges that farmers of our country are facing. And you know, farmers constitute 50% plus. We are talking about 50% plus population, so naturally you have to keep them happy, and government may come out with a budget that will be more sugary. You know, it may sound and look good. So this is something that we have to stay away from. We have to take all those steps that are going to be beneficial. They may look a bit harsh, right? Say for example, demonetization. Right now, I know that we have heard many negative things about demonetization. People make a joke out of it, and there are some, you can say, I'm not saying that it is one of the most perfect thing that we have ever done. Of course, there are some negative sides of this demonetization as well, but there are some positive sides as well, right? So we have to take some sorts of harsh steps. And the thing is that if you ask me personally, it's not about BJP or Congress or any other party. What I would say is that once you select, or once you elect a government for 5 years, then give them a free hand. Allow them to do whatever they like. Of course, if they are taking away your fundamental rights, then you have to stand tall. But if normally all this sort of decisions, right, allow them to do that, and then we can analyze, or we can check them during our voting time. So this is something, this will give a sort of free hand to the government as well to perform, and the less you are in pressure, the better you can perform. Anyways, so these are the things we have talked about, this fiscal deficit and other things, and government has started this investment process as well. And in fact, this investment target was overachieved, and a special video on this thing is also going to come out hopefully today. It is about ONGC and HPCL merger, and we are going to talk about this investment in this thing as well. So make sure you check that one out too. Now this thing, when your fiscal deficit targets, right, the government has said that it may step, or it may exceed, or may not be able to achieve this fiscal deficit target. So this thing is something that is not appreciated by the market. This will lead to interest rate going up, and when interest rates basically shoot up, it is the government that will face the biggest problem, because it is the biggest borrower. And we know that every 0.5 or 0.6% increase in rate will create a sort of burden of 40,000 crore rupees, something equivalent to the full budget of MG Narega. Moving on, oil prices and commodity prices that are going up may come down. This big surge is something that means the market, when it keeps on going up and up, then generally speaking, right, it is believed that it will crash as well. So big problems for investor, and something similar has been said in this interview as well. We will talk about it as we reach there, so let's keep this thing on side for now. And some of the headwinds and tailwinds. Headwinds is basically when you are moving in this direction and when the wind is facing you, right? It is opposing you or you're facing it. This is called headwinds. So in economy, headwinds basically means the troubles that you may find, right? Because this headwinds are going to create some sort of frictions, isn't it? So every $10 increase in oil prices can reduce GDP growth of country like India, which is relying too heavily on imports of oil. So 0.2 to 0.3% since last you can say few months, right? The price of oil has gone up. It has touched $70, right? So from $45, $50, we are here at $70. So you can imagine its impact. The other thing is that US Fed, right? The US central bank, they are going to increase interest rate. So you will earn more interest in USA if you park your money over there, or if you buy government bonds. So the money that is invested in our market will go back to USA, and not only India but other developing countries as well. So this is going to be these are two major headwinds that we may face. Then we have domestic challenges like job creation, revival of private investment, revival of exports, focus on rural and agricultural economy, and bringing the banking sector to a healthier condition. Prime Minister, during this Davos meeting of this World Economic Forum, he also talked about this economic inequality, that 1% of India owes 73% of its wealth. And no doubt, ease of doing business, our rank is 100, but this is a big problem for us. Disputes and litigations, it goes on for ages. This one is about interview of Arvind Subramaniam. Very quickly, it talks about slabs. The government is thinking to reduce the slabs, both direct and indirect, but again, you know that the wider it becomes, the slabs can go down only then. Oil prices are fact of life, and whenever we see oil prices going up, then government has to make some necessary changes. He talked about double-digit growth during his first economic survey, and now he says that this was, at that point of time, he overestimated things. But with GST, now GST is out, and if we get a bit of support, if external environment, that means international environment, if you find a little bit of tailwinds, right, winds supporting you, or things in your favor, then we can touch this 8% or 8% plus growth, which is absolutely smashing. And we also need this private investment. We talked about this thing yesterday, that private investment is also very important for our economy. Now we are in news area, right? CEA, that is Chief Economic Advisor, flags impact of market correction on retail investors. And again, he's talking about this thing that we have discussed so far. So I have clubbed this thing here. It's just the unique point here is that he has you can say suggested the government that it should stay away from, or it should resist the temptation to be a populist, right? Populist in the sense you come out with those strategies and schemes that may sound sweet. This one is about impeachment process. Allahabad High Court judge, his name is Mr. Justice Shukla, right? He's going to be impeached, and this decision is taken by Chief Justice of India. A panel has been set up by Chief Justice of India, and now the process is in motion. A letter to Prime Minister has been written by CJI for the impeachment of this judge. He gave some orders, this Justice Narayan Shukla, right? His order was in favor of a company that was not right. So this has created this situation for him. Now the process will this will go on in Parliament, and it is important for you guys as well to go through how impeachment works. We have talked about this thing earlier on. If you don't know about it, then there are go through, read through the books, and if you want me to explain this thing, right, then do let me know. But I believe that most of you would be knowing that then parliament, the motion will be there in parliament, then investigation will take place, and if it is proven, then impeachment will go on with the help of a voting. With this one facing criticism, government backs down orange passport. You know, this orange passport, orange colored passport was in news, and it was to be provided to laborers and those who have not completed their education and things like that. When I say not completed, I mean to say the one who have just passed their 10th examination, or you can say unskilled laborers, predominantly going to UAE and other countries for labor work. So they were to be given with this orange colored passport, and this was discriminated, right? This was considered as a discrimination, and it was criticized by this opposition. And we talked about this thing as well, because you cannot differentiate, right? You cannot give, of course you are giving diplomatic passports to important people, because frequent flyers, when I say frequent flyers, I don't mean to say that private businessmen, I'm talking about some important government officials and other people. So right, we can understand that thing, but based on this their labor status and things like that, you cannot do this thing. So of course government now, MEA, has decided that they are going to drop this idea. ISRO's chief has said that ISRO is working to reduce the cost of its satellite and launch vehicle missions, and we are using different things like EPS, electronic propulsion system, and other sorts of advanced electronics and miniaturized avionics and things like that to ensure that the prices of our launch is as low as possible. And he also talked about this thing called Chandrayaan-2 aircraft, which is scheduled to be launched in April 2018. Then you have this GSLV Mark II. GSLV Mark III is also an important vehicle that we have at present. Medical body opposes NMC bill. National Medical Commission bill is opposed by this World Medical Association. It says that let professional self-governance prevail rather than government interfering with the governance, but I think they don't know the situation of our country. It is different than what they have observed around the world. NGT issues notice to center to plea against diversion of Ganga, and it warns that this will damage wildlife and river ecology. ICJ has no jurisdiction in Indian fishermen row, has been said by our central government to Madras High Court. And one more thing, dear friends, there is a special video lecture on this thing too, right? Sri Lanka and India's fishermen issue, very important one for our national security, very important for our neighborhood policy. So please do check that one out, available both in Hindi and English. And CIA director has warned that Russia will target USA during this midterm elections. SBI is going to provide, very important thing here, SBI is going to provide this credit cards for farmers. 40-day credit will be available. And if you compare this credit card, new credit card, this is a pilot project at present. If you compare it with Kisan credit card, then as per SBI's chairman, this Kisan credit card was more like a debit card, but this one, the new credit card, is genuinely going to provide 40 days credit and lower interest rates. This one is about tobacco industry, right? An amendment is requested by the government, and once it is given by Supreme Court, then government can ban the trade of this tobacco industry. And skill development is going to go up or leg up during this budget. We may see a sort of increase in budget of this skill development ministry. And you have two important schemes here, Sankalp and Strive. Full forms are given here, and other details are also provided, so please go through it. These are your two questions, dear friends, and don't forget to check out StudyIQ.com for our pen drive and tablet courses. And do let me know what you think about this bits and a little bit of changes that I have made in presentation. Do pass me your comment, or you can also write in the message section of this of my Facebook page. If you don't feel comfortable in writing comment under this video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, give us your like, and you can download this PDF from our Telegram channel and FB page. I am thinking about a new thing, right? Let me think about it and I will share it with you guys. It is about a sort of new way of interacting and learning from each other. So yes, if possible, then I will provide updates regarding that thing, regarding that idea that I have in my mind on my Facebook page. I will see you all soon. Till then, enjoy your studies. Goodbye and Jai Hind.